the start of the series, Special Agent Mark Benford of the Federal Bureau of Investigation emerges from his crashed vehicle and discovers the city of Los Angeles in turmoil. Cars have collided into each other, airplanes have crashed into the nearby buildings, and hundreds of thousands of people have died. Following this, the series jumps back to 4 hours earlier, where Mark is at his house getting ready for work. He lives with his wife, Olivia, a doctor by profession, and their 6-year-old daughter, Charlie. After breakfast, Mark heads outside and greets Nicole, Charlie's babysitter. He asks her to stay late that day because Olivia has to work a late shift at the hospital. Nicole takes this as the perfect opportunity to have some alone time, so she accepts. Meanwhile, Olivia tries to call Bryce Varley, a fellow doctor, but he doesn't pick up. It turns out that he has not reported to work in a few days. We are then taken to a pier where Bryce is casually strolling around. As he observes the nearby people enjoying themselves, he pulls out a handgun from his bag. On the other hand, Mark is attending an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting where Aaron Stark, a friend of Mark's, is giving a speech. He describes how his Marine daughter, Tracy, died in Afghanistan and how his wife divorced him when he needed her the most. After the meeting, Mark tells his friend to move on and find a girl, and the latter reluctantly agrees. Later, Mark joins his partner Dimitri in surveilling an unnamed woman. Dimitri takes pictures of her as she shakes hands with her accomplices. Shortly after, the unidentified woman and her accomplices get into a black vehicle and prepare to leave. Seeing this, Mark radios his boss, Stanford Weddick, and a fellow FBI agent, Janice Hawk, to prepare for mobile surveillance. Unfortunately, the vehicle's occupants become aware that they're being pursued and make an effort to flee. Mark and Dimitri immediately go after the vehicle, resulting in a high-speed chase through the streets of LA. But before the bad guys are caught, suddenly, the world goes into a blackout. In this period, everyone loses consciousness and sees a glimpse of their future. Mark sees that he is alone and stressed out at night in his office. He writes down who else knows on a page-a-day calendar, posts stuff on a bulletin board, and drinks some alcohol. The day is April 29th, 2010, according to the calendar. As red laser light pierces the darkness of Mark's office, masked men enter the room and look for Mark because he knows too much about the global outage. Back in the present, everything has been devastated. For 2 minutes and 17 seconds, everyone on Earth went unconscious. The incident has serious consequences. Massive vehicle accidents, crashed aircraft, blazing fires, and even a kangaroo trotting across downtown Los Angeles. If that kangaroo doesn't kick some ass later, I want my money back. But surprisingly, the blackout also saved some people. For instance, Bryce, who was having a go at his life, was stopped. When he wakes up, he interprets the strange occurrence as a message that his death was not meant to be. With renewed motivation, he then rushes to the hospital to assist Olivia. At the hospital, everyone is left equally confused by the blackout. However, they don't have much time to think about it as an 8-year-old boy named Dylan Simcoe is about to undergo a surgery to remove his brain tumor. The weird thing is that Dylan knows Olivia, despite her meeting him for the first time. In the next scene, the heroic doctors somehow manage to save the boy, but learn that his mother died in the widespread blackout. To make matters worse, Olivia and the hospital staff are unable to find his father. Elsewhere, at the FBI headquarters, Mark and Dimitri bring in the woman they were chasing after when the blackout occurred. They try to interrogate her, but the woman claims that she has nothing to do with what happened. Later, as all the FBI agents are in a meeting, Mark shares the specifics of his blackout vision. He claims to have experienced a flash, but it wasn't from the past, but from the future. Hence, they give it the name Flash Forward. Oh shit, they said it. Hearing this, the other FBI agents also reveal that they experienced the same phenomenon. It turns out that everyone had flashes of events that have not yet occurred. It gets weirder here. All the flashes took place on the 29th of April, 2010, which is 6 months from now. While everyone is busy explaining their flashes, Dimitri is concerned because he did not have one. He wonders if that is because 6 months from now, he will be dead. On the other hand, Janice reveals that she saw herself 17 weeks pregnant, which is odd because she doesn't even have a boyfriend. Maybe it was the kangaroo. Then, Mark mentions that in his vision, he was investigating the cause of the flash forward. Hearing this, his boss, Weddick, assigns him, Dimitri, and Janice to investigate the case. To kickstart their investigation, Janice wants to create a website so people from around the world can post their visions. This way, they can search for patterns that are similar and research about them. Later, in his office, Dimitri helps Mark put together together his vision so that they can get a lead. Mark reveals that in his flash, he saw that the name of the investigation was Mosaic. The name Dede Gibbons was written on a note card. There were also some photographs, one of an old man and one of a doll that was burned with a bullet casing nearby. The words "Blue Hand" were written on another note. One of the masked men coming to kill him had a tattoo on his arm, 3 stars. Mark was also wearing a friendship bracelet, like the ones kids make. And lastly, he was drinking heavily. Elsewhere, a tired Olivia wonders what her flash meant. She had seen a man in her house and called him honey, suggesting that she and Mark had ended their marriage. Olivia is upset because of the strong feelings she had for the mystery man in her flash. She shares this with Mark, but instead of being angry, he comforts her by saying that just because they saw those things happen doesn't necessarily mean they're going to happen. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Dylan's father, Lloyd Simcoe, arrives to visit his kid. In a shocking turn of events, it is revealed that the man Olivia saw in her flash is none other than Lloyd himself. Back at home, Charlie informs her father that she had a nightmare. The little girl is scared, so Mark doesn't inquire about it, but just then, he notices something in her palm. Charlie says that it is a bracelet of friendship that she has bought for her father. The bracelet is the same one that Mark was wearing in his flash. Realizing that his flash events are unfolding, Mark becomes overwhelmed, but nonetheless, he lets his daughter put the bracelet on him. At the FBI headquarters, Janice has spent the last 5 hours poring over footage from numerous security cameras. Every video depicts the same thing. People all over the globe blacking out for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. However, in one video, which was recorded at a sports event in Detroit, the whole stadium crowd falls unconscious, except for one figure. The person slowly moves along the stadium until finally vanishing into the exit's shadows.
He was born into the darkness.
The following day at school, Charlie gets into trouble with one of her classmates when she is forced to share what she saw in the blackout. Later, at a staff meeting, Weddick informs the LA field office employees that 6 FBI agents had quit that morning, bringing the 3-day total of resignations to 18. As he continues explaining the situation, a woman interrupts him and mocks his speech. She is introduced as Anastasia Markham, Deputy Chief of Homeland Security. Just then, Mark's phone rings and he rushes at the door, stating that there is an issue at his daughter's school. In the next scene, Mark meets with Olivia and Principal Byron at Charlie's school. Byron is concerned about the little girl's reluctance to talk about her vision, implying that she saw something bad. Later, Mark and Olivia discuss the matter and speculate that their daughter saw the man in Olivia's vision. Meanwhile, at the FBI field office, Anastasia expresses skepticism regarding the legitimacy of the investigation. She claims that they're spending too much time and money on the useless website. But her demeanor quickly changes when Weddick shows her the Detroit Stadium's security video of the person whom they refer to as Suspect Zero. Shortly after, as Dimitri and Mark are talking about Dede Gibbons, Janice interrupts them, announcing that a woman named Dede Gibbons is asking to see Dimitri. Wasting no time, the FBI agents start questioning Gibbons. When asked about her flash, she describes an angry phone call about pigeons with an unknown person, during which she screamed at the person to speak with Mark and Dimitri. On the other hand, Olivia brings Charlie to the hospital with her. As she is working, Lloyd approaches her to thank her for saving his son's life. Seeing him, Olivia realizes that he is the same man she called Honey in her flash. Taken aback, she takes her daughter to the room where Dylan and her father are present. Olivia then asks Charlie if she recognizes Lloyd, but the little girl replies that she does not. However, just as Olivia breathes a sigh of relief, Charlie notices Dylan and starts screaming. She demands to know who hurt him, indicating that she had seen him in her flash. Back at the field office, Janice reports that the only interesting information she could find on Gibbons was that her credit card was used twice within minutes to make purchases in Virginia and Utah. Dimitri believes that a cloned card was used by someone else. Either that or Gibbons was purchasing some sexy time fun online. Just then, Weddick remembers what Gibbons said earlier. She used the word pigeon a lot of times in her flash. Realizing that the word may be of significant importance, Janice searches for the term and discovers a place called Pigeon in Utah. As the discussion is going on, Mark sees his wife in the hallway and excuses himself. Olivia tells Mark about their daughter's reaction to seeing Dylan and about meeting the man she saw in her flash. As expected, Mark is devastated to hear this, as his worst fears are starting to come true. He tries to inquire further, but just then, Dimitri interrupts them with an important lead. It turns out that Gibbons' clone credit card has just been used to buy a bus ticket out of Pigeon, Utah. Later, Mark and Dimitri reach Pigeon to meet with the sheriff, Keegan, a local officer. The FBI and the Pigeon Sheriff's Department have staked out the local bus station in the hopes of catching whoever cloned Gibbons' Gibbons' credit card, believing that they are the right Dede Gibbons. However, the bus departs after dark with no passengers on it, much to the dismay of the group. But as they are about to leave the scene, they spot an abandoned doll factory, which Mark connects with the photograph of the doll he saw in his flash. Because of the clue, the group breaks into the factory and sees a shadow on the move. Unfortunately, while pursuing it, Mark sets off a booby trap and causes some of the hanging dolls to bounce around. Soon, they enter a room and find a strange man holding 2 lighters, surrounded by computer equipment. He drops the lighters and they erupt in flames. The man then shoots Sheriff Keegan, killing her on the spot. He must have known that we just met that character and don't care about her very much. Mark and Dimitri fire back, but the mysterious man escapes and releases some grenades, setting off an explosion. In the aftermath of the incident, investigators discover a cell phone and a white queen chess piece. They believe that the mysterious man is a heavy-duty computer hacker. Later, the FBI agents discover that the cell phone discovered at the doll factory made a phone call during the blackout. The call was made to someone at the same stadium where Suspect Zero was, indicating that they both are connected. As Dimitri is leaving the FBI building, he receives an anonymous phone call from a woman, claiming that in her flash, she was in an intelligence briefing where she learned that Dimitri will be murdered on March 15th, 2010. She further tells him that he will be shot 3 times before abruptly ending the call. Shocked, Dimitri tries calling her back, but her number is unavailable. At home, Mark checks in on Charlie, who is awake. She tells him that she got into trouble in school because she was afraid of what she saw in her flash. When Mark asks what she saw, she responds, "Dede Gibbons is a bad man." The next day, FBI agents discover a report about Rudolf Geyer, a convicted Nazi imprisoned in Quale, Germany, who has requested a meeting with Mark. The whole department is confused why an old man from another country would ask for Mark, and so they look into his file. Lo and behold, he turns out to be the same man that Mark was investigating in his flash. Because of this revelation, Wedek orders Mark and Janice to head to Germany and interrogate Geyer. Next, Dimitri's fiancée, Zoe, arrives from Seattle, and the two proceed to a motel. While lying in bed, they discuss their visions and future. Dimitri is taken aback when he learns that Zoe's flash was at their wedding, and that he was allegedly in it. With a heavy heart, he lies that he also witnessed the same event. At the hospital, Olivia has lunch with her friend Felicia, where they talk about their husbands and what they saw in the flash. Felicia is the wife of Stan, one of the FBI's top officers, and a good friend of Mark. She claims to have seen a young boy, Ataf, whom she had never seen before, living at her home and addressing her as Mom. Elsewhere, Mark and Janice arrive at the German prison where Geyer is being held, and, along with the warden and Geyer's attorney, begin to question him. Surprisingly, the old man demands that he be released from prison and allowed to settle in America with his charges dropped in exchange for the information. After a lot of deliberation, Mark agrees to the deal, as though he has the authority to do that, but only if Geyer reveals something worthy of his trust. However, the old man starts explaining riddles and useless stories, which make no sense to the detectives at all. Enraged, Mark gives Geyer one last chance to be useful, and the latter finally starts describing his flash. He says that he was returning to America, and at an airport, he was speaking with a customs official, Jerome Murphy. He told Murphy that he had a murder to thank for his freedom. When Mark asks why he was called out of all people, Geyer reveals that he was sent to America because of Mark. To confirm Geyer's flash, Dimitri meets with Murphy and inquires if he also saw the same vision. Surprisingly, Murphy recalls the exact same events, hence confirming that the old man was actually telling the truth. Back in Germany, Mark promises Geyer his freedom and asks him to explain everything else that he knows. The old man then reveals that the murder he witnessed was the slaughter of a large number of crows outside his prison window. Although the information is not significant, he gives Mark a book about birds to research more about them. Meanwhile, at a memorial service for officers killed during the global blackout, Felicia notices Ataf sitting in the front row with a woman. Shortly after, Zoe pleads with Dimitri to set their wedding date for the D-Day. That is, April 29th, 2010. Dimitri is hesitant at first, but when Zoe insists, he agrees. After returning to the States, Mark speculates that there could have been other events in which large numbers of birds died. He and Janice head to the office to look through news files. Surprisingly, they discover a report from Somalia in 1991 in which a large number of crows died, while residents also experienced a mass loss of consciousness, eerily similar to the global blackout. The series then shows a flashback to 1991 in the Ganwar region of Somalia, where a young boy is seen herding a group of goats. Moments later, he sees a large number of crows flocking around him. To his surprise, all the crows suddenly drop to the ground. In a panic, he quickly runs over the hill to see his village, only to find a large number of people unconscious on the ground. The episode ends as a large aircraft in the center of the village appears to be a emitting some form of smoke. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.